My name's Darren, I'm 28, and I've always been the other son. You know, the one who gets polite nods at family gatherings while your younger brother gets full-on applause for showing up late. Growing up, I never made waves. I wasn't the straight-A golden child like Liam, nor the charming, always has a story uncle like Greg. I was the one who showed up early, helped set the table, and got asked to take the group photo instead of being in it. I guess I used to think that was just how families worked. Some people are loved louder, others are just present. But this year, something inside me cracked. It started a few weeks ago when my mom called me, voice all sugar and spice. Liam's turning 26. We're doing something special for him. You'll come, right? I said sure, thinking maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Maybe I'd get a thank you for the car payment I covered when Dad's engine blew out last fall. Or some kind of acknowledgement that I've been sending Mom money every month since she lost her job. But I didn't hold my breath. I just marked the date, bought a new shirt, and even made a reservation at a nice place downtown when she told me the original restaurant couldn't accommodate their big group. Turns out that's where they were planning to go all along, just without me. The dinner was set at this trendy rooftop spot with velvet booths and those massive wine glasses that feel too fancy for actual drinking. I walked in right on time, spotted the long table near the center, filled with all the usual suspects, Mom and Dad at one end, Liam holding court in the middle with his girlfriend draped on him like a scarf, and a half-dozen cousins snapping pictures with their phones. My heart dropped the second I saw the table. Every chair was filled, not a single empty seat. For a moment, I thought maybe there was another table. Maybe they'd gotten a side spot for the overflow guests. But nope, that was it. I stood there like a fool, unsure whether to wave or walk away. Then my Aunt Janice, Mom's older sister, always dressed like she was trying out for Real Housewives, Suburbs Edition, turned, looked me up and down, and cackled. Oh well, you can stand. You're used to being on the sidelines. A few of the cousins snickered, not even bothering to hide it. Liam didn't even glance over. No one shifted. No one scooted. They just kept passing the bread basket around like I wasn't even there. I forced a tight smile, nodded once, and turned toward the bar. Sat on a stiff leather stool with my back to them, and ordered the cheapest whiskey they had. I could feel the burn before it even hit my throat, but I didn't care. I sipped it slow, eyes fixed on the amber ripples in the glass. Behind me, the sound of clinking cutlery, laughter, and camera flashes blended into one long, blurry hum. I didn't want to be part of it anymore, not like that. About an hour in, the bartender slid me another drink. I hadn't ordered a second one. He jerked his thumb toward the table. "Compliments of the birthday boy," he said. I turned and saw Liam raise his glass lazily in my direction. That was the extent of my invitation, an afterthought in a rocks glass. I didn't drink it. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old messages, trying to distract myself. One from 2 months ago caught my eye. Mom asking if I could help cover Liam's overdue rent just this once. Another from last Christmas, where I'd sent Dad a $500 Visa card after he forgot. My gift again. A voice inside me whispered, "You don't belong at that table. You built it, but you're not invited to sit there." The hours dragged on. I watched them pose for group selfies, laughing like a sitcom family. Even the server joined in at one point, taking a picture with Liam like he was some kind of celebrity. I stayed at the bar, chewing on ice and watching the city lights shimmer through the glass walls. I was halfway through drafting a polite excuse text to leave when the manager approached. He was wearing a tight black vest and a practiced smile, but his tone was clipped. "Excuse me, sir. Your party said you'd be covering the bill tonight." I blinked, not sure I heard right. "I'm sorry." He gestured toward the table. "They said the bill is under your name. It's $3,200. My mind stalled. $3,000? For what? They must have ordered half the wine list and all the appetizers in the city. I stood slowly, the stool creaking under me, and looked over. Mom was laughing with Janice. Liam had his arm around his girlfriend, and Dad was snapping his fingers at the server for another drink. No one was even looking at me. I downed the last of my drink, placed the empty glass gently on the bar, and adjusted my sleeves. "Sorry," I said calmly. "I left my wallet at the family table." Then I turned and walked. Not briskly, just smooth, even steps, like I was leaving a movie halfway through. I could feel the tension shift behind me, like the air got sucked out of the room. I reached the elevator when I heard it. My mom's voice, loud and panicked. "Stop him." The door slid closed. And for the first time in my entire life, I didn't stop. The elevator hummed softly as it descended, each floor feeling like a breath I hadn't allowed myself to take in years. My reflection in the mirror-paneled walls looked unfamiliar, calm, deliberate, almost detached. But beneath that stillness, I was boiling. I hit the lobby just as a different family walked in, all smiles and chatter, probably heading up to a celebration of their own. I slipped past them, pushed open the glass doors, and stepped into the cool night air. The city buzzed around me, honking cars, distant music, heels clicking on pavement. But inside, everything had gone still, like my brain was buffering. I didn't go home right away. I walked. I needed to feel something. The sidewalk beneath my shoes, the sting of the breeze on my face, the dull ache blooming in my chest. I ended up at this late-night cafe I used to frequent back in college. Back when I thought if I worked hard enough, proved myself enough, they'd finally look at me the way they looked at Liam. I sat outside with a coffee I didn't touch and just stared into the dark, trying to untangle the knot in my gut. The truth was, I'd known they didn't respect me. I just hadn't expected them to throw it in my face with a $3,200 receipt. I'd always rationalized it. Liam's the baby. He's just struggling. He needs more help. He'll grow up eventually. Mom's just under stress. Dad's not good with emotions. But this wasn't just favoritism. It was calculated disrespect. They didn't forget to seat me. They didn't want to. They didn't assume I'd pay the bill. They expected me to. Because I always had. Every single time. The car I helped Liam finance. The emergency vet bill when Mom's cat got sick. The home repairs for Dad. The groceries. The birthday gifts no one matched. The quiet little ways I made their lives easier while they acted like I was a backup dancer in the family's production of the Liam show. And the worst part? I let them. But tonight, something snapped. I stayed out until nearly midnight. My phone had blown up. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. I didn't open any of them. When I finally walked through my front door, the apartment felt different. Not just because I was seeing it with new eyes, but because it was mine. Every piece of furniture, every framed photo, every utility bill and grocery trip, I'd done it without them. No handouts. No pity. I sat at my desk, stared at my laptop for a long moment, then opened my banking app. I'd been sending my parents $800 a month for years. Quietly. Automatically. A little help here and there. A bit of stability for Mom after her job loss. A supplement for Dad's pension. No one ever said thank you. The few times I brought it up, Mom would wave it off like I was talking about pocket change. We all do what we can, she'd say, like I was just carrying my weight. Well, that weight was coming off. Click. Cancelled. Then I opened another tab and logged into the joint bank account Liam's name was secretly tied to. Back when I'd co-signed for him to get his apartment. He'd promised to take over within a year. That was 4 years ago. I'd asked nicely. I'd sent reminders. And every time, I got the same half smile and, "I'll sort it out, bro." He never did. But I had access. So I moved my half out. Then I closed the account. And then I emailed the leasing office a scanned copy of the paperwork I'd kept, declaring that, effective immediately, I was removing myself as guarantor. I knew they'd come knocking. I just didn't care anymore. Around 1 a.m., I finally checked my phone. The first few texts were predictably dramatic. Mom. Darren, how could you just walk out like that? You embarrassed us. Dad. Be a man and handle your responsibilities. Liam. Dude, WTF? You said you'd take care of dinner. I'd said no such thing. Then came the voicemails. One from Janice. Janice, scolding me like I was a child who misbehaved at church. You made your mother cry, Darren. Is that what you wanted? Because she's in the bathroom sobbing. I almost laughed. But the one that finally got me was the last voicemail. From my mom. Her voice was trembling, but not with sadness, more like panic. They're saying the card didn't go through. I thought you always cover things. Darren, please call me back. It was the first time in a long time she'd said please. I didn't call. Instead, I opened a group chat I'd never dared touch before, the family one. The one where I was always an afterthought, if mentioned at all. Birthday plans. Photos. Memes no one laughed at. Liam's achievements. Janice's daughter's wedding. Occasionally someone would tag me, usually to ask for help. So I typed a message. Just one line. You said I was covering the bill. I just did. Then I attached a photo of the canceled transfers, the bank account closure, and the formal guarantor removal letter. And then I turned off my phone and went to bed. I slept better that night than I had in years. But the fallout? Oh, that came fast. By morning, my phone looked like it had suffered a heart attack. 73 notifications, 24 missed calls, and the group chat? Exploding. I didn't check it right away. I made coffee. I opened my balcony door and let the breeze in. It was a rare calm for a Thursday morning, the kind of silence that feels like the world holding its breath. I stood there, mug in hand, looking out over the rooftops. For once, I didn't feel like I had to explain myself. I wasn't running a mental checklist of what I owed, who needed what, how I could quietly fix someone else's mess. When I finally sat down and opened the messages, it felt like peeling off a bandage. Mom, I just don't understand, Darren. After everything we've done for you, you would humiliate us like that in front of the entire family. Dad, you think you're above us now? You're lucky we let you sit at the bar. Liam, BRO, you literally ruined my birthday. You couldn't just handle it like usual? It was one dinner. Then came a barrage of guilt grenades. Aunt Janice, your mother looked like she was going to faint. And poor Liam's girlfriend had to step in to cover part of the bill with her credit card. Is this how you repay your family? Cousin Emily. If you didn't want to be there, why show up at all? You made everything awkward. But the one that stuck with me wasn't the loudest. It came from Liam's girlfriend, Carly. A simple message, almost hesitant. Carly, hey, I'm not sure what happened, but honestly, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. It was the only message I replied to. Me. Thank you. That was it. I ignored the rest. By midday, the tone had shifted from outrage to desperation. Probably once they realized the account I used to deposit money into every month was no longer active. I imagined my mom trying to use the card for groceries, only to get declined. Or Dad, logging into his online banking and seeing a sudden shortfall. The quiet support I'd always provided, cut like a thread they didn't even know was holding everything together. And then came the first knock. It was around 6 p.m. I knew it before I even checked the peephole. The frantic knock, the uneven rhythm. It wasn't a neighbor or a friend. It was them. I didn't open the door. I watched from the other side as Mom's silhouette shifted, nervously glancing around the hallway. She knocked again, softer this time. Darren, honey, please. We just want to talk. I stayed still. I heard Dad's voice next. Firmer. Irritated. This is childish. You need to grow up and fix this. We're your parents. More knocking. A pause. Then Liam. Come on, man. You made your point, okay? You want to be petty? Fine. But just don't mess us over because you felt left out. Felt left out. That phrasing hit me like a punch to the ribs. Felt left out, like it was some imaginary offense. Like there hadn't been a literal, physical table where they'd chosen not to seat me. Like there hadn't been a $3,200 assumption tied to my name, my worth, my silence. They stayed out there for nearly 10 minutes, cycling through the roles, guilt, authority, manipulation, even fake concern. But eventually, the voices faded. I watched their figures retreat through the peephole. Still, I didn't move. Instead, I sat down at my kitchen table and opened the drawer where I kept every receipt, invoice, and bank statement tied to them. I'd never planned to use them. I kept them for my own peace of mind, just in case. But now I wasn't sure. There was so much history in those documents. Years of quiet support, unspoken agreements. The time I covered the $4,200 for Mom's dental surgery when her insurance didn't come through. The $6,800 I paid toward Liam's failed business experiment. The furniture I bought for Dad's garage remodel that he later claimed he had funded. All of it. For the first time, I wasn't just hurt. I was angry. Not loud, stomping, shouting angry. But a deep, seething kind of angry. The kind that comes from years of being underestimated, overlooked, used. And as I stared at those receipts, at the cold, hard evidence of everything I'd given, I began to plan. Not out of vengeance. Out of clarity. Because if they thought the real cost was just one dinner bill, they had no idea what they were about to lose. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was overwhelmed or regretful, but because I was awake for the first time in years, really awake. My brain wasn't fogged with guilt or obligations. I wasn't replaying what I could have done differently to make everyone happy. I was calm, alert, focused. By 3 a.m., every document was sorted and scanned. Bank transfers, credit card statements, receipts, even the signed lease agreement that proved I had co-signed for Liam's apartment. I labeled each one, marked the dates, cross-referenced them with old messages and emails that showed the context. Mom asking me for help with a temporary bill, Liam promising to pay me back next week, Dad saying he'd handle it next month. I wasn't just collecting evidence. I was reclaiming my story. The next morning, I took a personal day from work. No explanation, just a simple out-of-office notice. I made myself breakfast, showered, got dressed, and printed everything. I walked out of my apartment with a folder tucked under my arm and a destination in mind. My parents lived in a two-story suburban house 25 minutes away, a house I had helped repaint, rewire, and partially refurnish. It looked the same as always. The flower pots I bought for Mother's Day sat on the porch, now wilted and cracked. Dad's old truck was parked crooked on the driveway. Liam's car was gone, probably borrowing it to avoid paying for Uber again. I didn't knock. I rang the doorbell and waited. It was Mom who opened the door. Her eyes were puffy. She'd definitely been crying. But when she saw me, her face shifted instantly from vulnerability to performative relief. "Oh, Darren," she breathed, reaching for me. "I'm so glad you came." I took a step back. "I'm not here to hug it out." Her hand froze in midair. The color drained from her cheeks. She moved aside to let me in. I stepped into the house and was immediately hit by the smell of bacon and resentment. Dad was at the kitchen table, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. He didn't even look up. I walked straight to the dining room, the very table they'd gathered around to celebrate Liam the night before. I set the folder down in the center and opened it slowly, methodically. Mom hovered near the entrance, confused. Dad finally looked up, eyes narrowing. "I don't have time for games, Darren." "This isn't a game," I said quietly. "It's a summary." I pulled out the first document. "This is the $2,500 I wired to you after you said you were about to lose the house. I checked later. Turns out you were only 2 weeks behind on payments. But you took the money anyway." Mom flinched. I pulled out the next one. "This is the breakdown of all the monthly deposits I've been making into your joint account since 2019. Over $28,000 in total." I flipped to the next. "This is Liam's lease, signed by me, and the email from the landlord where I requested to remove myself. He may want to start budgeting soon." Dad stood abruptly, the chair scraping behind him. "What are you trying to do? Ruin your own family?" I looked at him. "I'm just done funding it." Mom finally found her voice. "You don't understand what this will do to us." I cut her off. "No, you don't understand. You thought you could treat me like an ATM with a pulse. And when I finally said no, you framed it as betrayal." My voice wasn't angry. It was steady, sharp, like I'd filed it down overnight into something I could finally wield. I pulled out the last page, a typed letter, folded once. "This is a formal notice that I'm severing all financial support. Effective immediately. No more temporary help. No more surprise bills. No more emergencies that only I seem responsible for." I looked at both of them. "I will not be covering the dinner. I will not be your backup plan." Dad laughed bitterly. "So that's it? You're walking away? Just like that?" I took a breath. "You've been walking away from me for years. I'm just finally turning in the opposite direction." I left the folder there on the table. As I walked toward the door, Mom followed me. "But we're family, Darren. We've made mistakes, but this is cruel." I turned to her one last time. "What's cruel is raising a son you only call when something breaks." And then I walked out. I expected that to be the end of it. But it wasn't. Word got around the family faster than wildfire. Aunt Janice sent a passive-aggressive Facebook post about disrespectful children who forget who raised them. Cousin Emily unfollowed me and posted a story about narcissistic behavior disguised as boundaries. Even Grandma called to ask if I was going through something and said she missed my Christmas cookies already. But none of it touched me, because for every cold shoulder, there was something warmer waiting. Like the text from Carly again. "I've always admired how quietly you take care of people. I hope you finally start taking care of yourself." Or my coworker Amanda, who noticed I wasn't myself that week and invited me to a bonfire with her friends. And then there was something even better, silence. The kind that isn't empty, but peaceful. I wasn't chasing approval anymore. I wasn't anxiously watching my phone for the next request, the next manipulation masked as a family favor. I was living on my own terms. A few weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a torn copy of the bill from the restaurant, along with a note written in sharp, rushed handwriting. I hope it was worth it. I smiled. It was, because the price of dinner wasn't $3,200. It was my freedom, and I had finally paid in full.